Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. Oh, let's put the little thing in the corner. The little thing's not in the corner. Hey, everybody, welcome to Dangerous Ideas. Starting off strong. Hope you're doing well out there. Hope you're doing better than Lindsey Graham. Oh, why would I make fun? Why would I make a joke about a dead guy? There's so many reasons to make fun of the dead and speak ill of the dead. I do not understand this expression whatsoever. It's first of all, speak ill of war criminals all of the time. Like when they're dead, when they're alive, when they're in between, when they're in your company, when behind their back, speak ill of them all of the fucking time. That's step one with war criminals. But even just non-war criminals, it's like don't speak ill of the dead. They're gone. They don't care anymore. Okay? Even if it's someone you liked and you're saying something a little critical of whenever he cooked spaghetti, it was a little too al dente, it's hurting my teeth. Like, say that stuff after they're dead, sure. What was a great time. But yeah, so Lindsey Graham is dead. We'll talk about that in a second. Go through some of his greatest hits of what a sick son of a bitch he was. But we'll also get into how Khanna was detained by Israeli settlers. Again, these are land pillagers, land pirates, sick, sad human beings. Settlers sounds way too nice for them, so I'm going to do my best to call them land pillagers. He and others were detained by them. We'll get into that. We'll get into so much more. I hope to get into my new Substack column on the sociopath test. Also, a little deeper analysis of the IMF and the World Bank and what exactly they do in the kind of larger scale of things. So much cool and important stuff. Some of it not so cool, but still important. Anyway, click thumbs up, click share. Remember, when you click subscribe, you have to also change the bell icon to say all alerts, and it probably still won't tell you because I know you're probably tired of me repeating this. You guys just have to show up. Like, if you want to see this show continue, just show up because you're not going to get an alert. They're going to do everything they can to not tell you this show exists anymore. And so it's really up to like you guys just deciding to watch it. My hair's a little crazy today, but I'm down with it. This is just I think every once in a while you gotta just go with the Looney Tunes hair. All right. So Lindsey Graham dead. By the way, some want to make this let's just start off with get this out of the way. Some want to make this a top secret assassination plot to take out Lindsey Graham. The Russians got him finally after all these years. A few things about this. One is, he's largely powerless. What if the Russians if the Russians want to take people out? Wouldn't they go for important people like? Lindsey Graham, yeah, he talks a lot. He talked a lot, but he was not that important. It's like, what does it serve the Russians besides the fact that if it actually came out that they were trying to assassinate people in Congress or the White House, there'd be a nuclear war. Like that would be bad for them. They wouldn't like that. So this idea, yes, he did just visit with Zelensky 2 days ago. He did just go see a Ukrainian drone factory, and then he got back to DC, and then he died. Also, not the shining star of health. I mean, look at this guy. And live your life however you want to live your life, but that is not. You're not looking at him and going, that young spry man died of natural causes. I don't believe it. But the other thing is, like, yes, he met with Zelensky. Like, so what? Zelensky, he's met with Zelensky 100 times. Like, he went to the Ukrainian drone factory, and that's where they got him. I don't know. It's just like, I don't see how Russia wins because they took out this old fart, this old war criminal. I don't see it as, no, if they took out like half of Congress, maybe it'd be a different story, but okay, so I just want to go through quickly some of the shitty things, awful, shitty things that Lindsey Graham stood for in his life. You might get some of this from the mainstream media, but probably not enough of it. Uh, as you know, I don't think, as I said many times, I don't think that Congress is the as powerful as people pretend it is. Most things in Congress just go along corporate lines. Of course, Lindsey Graham was sucking the taint of corporate America his entire life. That's who he was, but that's also who most of the Democrats are. But anyway, so this is from my column I just put up today over on reallycamp.substack.com. Free to read over there if you want the true play-by-play. I'm just going to skim through some of it. But before we get to all of his pro-war, pro-murder everybody stances, he was strongly anti-woman, anti-women's health. He wanted the U.S. healthcare system to destroy far more Americans than it already does. He was opposed to worker rights and basic welfare designed to help poor Americans get by. He was pro-big oil. He was anti-immigrant and pro-police state. Apparently, the U.S. being the largest prison state in the world was not enough for him. Not enough. He was also steadfastly anti-LGBTQ rights. He was anti-gay marriage, even though he ultimately accepted the Supreme Court's decision that he never said he supported it. He just said he understood that's what they decided, and so that's what the law is. That's not saying he supports it. It's just saying that's what happened. And as most of you know, widespread rumors that this man was gay. This is from The Advocate, a well-known LGBTQ magazine. In June 20, to quote, June 2020, Lady G trended on social media because that's what he was supposedly called. This was after an adult film star performer named Sean Harding alleged that Graham hired male sex workers and they called him Lady G. Now, we don't have proof of this, but these are widespread rumors. Again, as if I need to say this, I am very pro LGBTQ. I have no problem with Lindsey Graham being gay or not being gay. The only reason I'm mentioning it here is because if he's gay, fucking hypocrite, remarkable hypocrite, just total piece of shit hypocrite. That's why it should be mentioned. Okay, now let's get to his support of death and destruction, which was really what defined him. Like, that was his biggest talking point. That was what was most important to him and most important to the people that supported him and funded him. Number one of the biggest supporters of the U.S.-backed proxy war in Ukraine, which has killed hundreds of thousands in 2016, well before Russia's 2022 military incursion into Ukraine. Graham joined John McCain and Democrat Amy Klobuchar in Ukraine to tell the Ukrainians that the U.S. would give them all the support they needed to murder Russians. Do you want to see that clip? Sure you do.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2016 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
Yay! Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and Amy Klobuchar. Three giant warmongers supporting war crimes. And by the way, who are they speaking to in that crowd? Mostly Nazis. That was, I think, it doesn't say in the video that I found, but I think that was literally the Azov Battalion, which is the most Nazi of all the Nazi troops. And allow me to remind you that even the New York Times published an article admitting that many of the Ukrainian soldiers are Nazis and pro-Nazi. They have swastikas on their gear and their helmets, some of them. And the New York Times was admitting that was the truth while saying it's not a big deal. Or actually what the New York Times said is they don't understand what a swastika means. You know how Ukrainians, who were one of the biggest areas where there was fighting or support, of Nazis and Nazism during World War II, they don't understand what a swastika means. That's what the New York Times was claiming. But in that, they admitted that these are Nazis and pro-Nazi troops. And this was 2016. This was the time period when these troops were murdering culturally Russian people inside Ukraine's Donbass region, because you have many Russians. In fact, Zelensky himself grew up speaking Russian, not Ukrainian. And you have many Russians and Russian speakers in that area. And this is when those troops were murdering them. So that was John McCain and Lindsey Graham celebrating those troops. Let's keep moving, or we're going to run out of time. Graham breathlessly supported the massacre genocide of Gaza. He argued Israel should be able to use whatever kind of weaponry they want to destroy Gaza. And I'll just go ahead and play the clip of him saying exactly that they should be able to use nuclear weapons or the like to just massacre everyone in Gaza.
We decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. Give Israel the bombs they need to end the war they can't afford to lose, and work with them to minimize casualties. Well, can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
And yes, I played that a little fast because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But there he is, first of all, defending the dropping of the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was absolutely not needed. It did not change the war. The Japanese were already surrendering. Even Nagasaki didn't even have military targets. Like a few military folks were killed. A few troops were killed as 100,000 people were murdered. And so he's defending that absolute crime against humanity, horrific, horrible shit show that is the U.S. empire. At the same time as he's saying Israel should be able to drop nuclear bombs or the like on Gaza and murder hundreds of thousands. It's just absolutely repulsive human being. Number 3, Lindsey Graham has advocated for going to war with Iran for years. He enthusiastically called for bombing their civilian infrastructure, which is a war crime. Much like with Ukraine, Gaza, and others, Graham showed zero concern for civilian casualties. He just wanted war all the time with everyone. Number 4, he supported the 2002 war against Iraq, based obviously on false intel about weapons of mass destruction. He opposed the U.S. leaving Iraq when they ultimately did. He never apologized or showed any remorse over the WMD lie. Number 5, Graham endlessly called for ratcheting up the dirty war with Syria. He demanded a larger U.S. military role, arming rebels who were often jihadists, terrorists. He pushed the chemical weapons, false flag propaganda, and supported no-fly zones that could have easily sparked a full-scale war between the U.S. and Russia. I think he wanted full-scale. If you, not only is he a sociopath, it's very clear. I've covered that in previous columns. Absolute sociopath. But I think this is an immensely unhappy man. And he wanted the world to be as unhappy as he was. And he's one of these weird fucks that was kind of hoping that we end up in a nuclear war or something just catastrophic, because then the whole world is kind of at his level. They're all miserable and upset, and nobody is living a comfortable life. And now he gets to feel like he is in the midst of everybody being as miserable as he is. I think that's likely what you had going on with Lindsey Graham, but all I can say for sure is definite sociopath. In 2011, he called for military action against Libya and Muammar Gaddafi based on false propaganda. It, of course, did not bother him that it resulted in the loss of thousands of lives and the destruction of Libya into a failed state with open-air slave markets. Number 7, Lindsey Graham supported the war in Afghanistan and opposed withdrawing from Afghanistan after a mere 20 years. 20 years of war, still wanted to be there, still wanted to be murdering Afghani people. In his mind, the U.S. was entitled to own everything and should give back nothing. All right, so I can't list everything Lindsey Graham did that was shitty or horrific or supported because that would use up all of the internets. So just clearly a psychopath. And by the way, plenty of Democrats are sending their warm love and sadness over the loss of such a hero, including your friend and mine, Kamala Harris. Gosh, Kamala Harris, I just hope she's going to win the presidency any day now. Let's see if I can put this on the screen. Here's Kamala Harris's tweet. I'm saddened to learn of the passing of my former colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham. He was full of wit, energy, and charm, and he cared deeply about the Senate and the people of South Carolina. Doug and I are sending our thoughts and our prayers to his friends and loved ones. Aw. See, you got to understand that it's a big club of psychopaths, and you and I ain't in it. Okay. So, yeah, Kelly in the comments is asking if she was high. No, that's who she is. She's a sociopath as well. She fits with the others. And at the end of the day, these guys, I said guys, but these people, our government all stand for essentially the same thing. There's about 5 who disagree. We're going to talk about Ro Khanna here in a minute, and certain things he's pretty good. But there's about 5 of them that just, because on the core things, they all agree. On the core basis of capitalism, extraction into a tiny number of unhinged lunatics' fingers. That's what it is. Harm to all others, bomb people to give us more power, coup countries and put in right-wing lunatics that cause untold harm. All fine as long as it benefits the United States and our ability to have more power and more money. So let's move on from Lindsey Graham. I don't want to spend the whole hour on that piece of human garbage. So I want to shift to, this is Ro Khanna. He was detained. He went to the West Bank. Now, most of our politicians don't go to any part of Palestine, right? Don't go to Gaza. Don't go to the West Bank because Israel largely is either not going to allow you to, or they're going to do it as like you basically in bed with Israel. Israel decides what you see, how you see it. That's how most of these trips are done. You've seen Elon Musk do that trip. You've seen Tulsi Gabbard do that trip. You've seen Nikki Haley, all these people that go over and they see whatever Israel wants them to see, which is a completely propaganda tour. Ro Khanna didn't do that. He went to the West Bank. I don't know what else he saw, but he ended up in an experience that is actually the norm in the West Bank for Palestinians. The difference is, in this interview I'm about to show, he calls it unprecedented. It is only unprecedented because it involved a sitting U.S. congressperson. That is the only reason it was unprecedented. Otherwise, this is absolutely what is done to so many Palestinians on a daily basis. All right, so here he is. And by the way, they'll talk about this. The IDF has lied and claimed that that the settlers, the land pillagers, detained or stopped him and his crew, Ro Khanna and his crew, and then the IDF came and dispersed everything and allowed Ro Khanna to go along. That is not true, as he'll detail.
Ask you, because you just returned from a 3-day trip to the West Bank this week. You say you were held by Israeli settlers with rifles. We do have some still footage that was captured by your team of the incident. We should say in a statement, the Israeli Defense Forces, or the IDF, released a statement saying IDF troops were dispatched to the scene, quickly dispersed the Israeli civilians, and reopened the blocked road. The IDF soldiers operating in the area did not take part in blocking the road. Walk us through what you experienced.
The IDF is lying. What happened was unprecedented. They had violent settlers detain American citizens, including an American government official. You had these settlers brandishing M4s, kicking the tires of our van, laughing at us, mocking at us, videotaping us. We were detained for about 20 minutes, fearful of our lives. Then the IDF comes, 4 soldiers. They tell our translator that they're on the side of the settlers. They further detain us and block us in. We had to call the American embassy. Fortunately, David Brownstein helped, and he got to someone in Israel. And 75 minutes after the detention by the IDF soldiers and by these settlers, we were let through. Now, I heard the prime minister, and he says that Israel is a country of law and order. Well, let me be very specific. The prime minister needs to open an investigation on these violent settlers. We're connected to Yanon Levy, who has destroyed Zanuda's village and is a known person who has killed Palestinians, and these settlers were connected to him. They need to be prosecuted, including Yanon Levy. Their outpost needs to be investigated, and he needs to have an investigation on these 4 IDF officers. Security cameras can see that they were involved in the detention of American citizens. How dare they mistreat people with an American passport that way?
Well, we appreciate your weighing in on.
So you'll also notice that she just reads Israel's statement as if that's the truth. But Israel says blah, blah, blah. Like, why should NBC News ever read an Israeli statement as if it has any truth to it? Why at this point would you ever be like the Israelis say? It matters zero what the Israelis say, because they have lied about everything all of the times. Like, does anyone not know? You have to be a fucking child to not know Israel lies about everything all of the time. And so that's what our media is. They're fucking children. Anyway, what happened to Khanna? And actually, before I keep going, let me show another video clip. It doesn't really show a lot, but it kind of shows the situation. It shows the people with guns have stopped him and his crew. And so this is filmed by another person in his crew. Who posted, the IDF is lying about the detention of Rep. Khanna. I was on the ground with him that day, and my body camera captured us being detained by both settlers and Israeli soldiers. The IDF did not disperse the violent settlers, as they claim. They explicitly sided with the settlers, which is what they always do. The IDF is always going to side with these violent land pillagers who are Israelis. I apologize for those of you listening to the podcast. A lot of this won't make sense, but it's only 1 minute long. So. So it might be tough to see, but their truck has been stopped by these other trucks, and the people get out with automatic rifles. And you can't, I know it might look like, well, why don't they just drive around that road? Well, for one thing, there are large rocks which will destroy your truck and your tires. But besides that, if they were to start going around the road, these trucks would just block them again. And these people have automatic rifles, so you don't know whether they're going to open fire. So if these trucks stop in front of the road, that's the end of the road. You're not going around them unless you want to get shot at. So that's what they've done. And these people are both land pillagers, Israeli land pillagers, and IDF.
מה קורה, חבר'ה? דיברנו עם מי הפקד של הפטרול? מי? דיברנו עם המשטרה ואמרו פשוט תזיזו.
So he's talking to the IDF in a truck. He says, who's the patrol commander? And they basically won't answer him.
אותם כדי שאנחנו נוכל לצאת, אז אני לא מבין מה הבעיה פה. אבל הרגע דיברתי עם השוטר.
And the IDF don't actually answer him. They just say, if you've spoken to the police, then they'll tell us what to do when they get here. He says, I've spoken to the police, and they say to tell you that it's fine for us to go.
אבל ממש הולך להתעכב. אז אתם יכולים לעלות מול החמ"ל ולטפל בזה, כי אנחנו דיברנו כבר. יש פה חבר קונגרס שדיבר עם נדב. יש פה חבר קונגרס אמריקאי.
And so he keeps trying to tell them there's a member of Congress here, and they're just asking questions. They're like, who are you? Why the police will tell us. Like, they're just trying to make this as difficult as possible, take as long as possible. They're hoping they'll give up and stop going forward. And why does Israel want to do all this? Like, what do they gain from it? Well, by making it nearly impossible for foreigners to come and see the West Bank and see certain areas of the West Bank that are being settled, meaning stolen, the world is less likely to find out the truth. The less footage you have, the less foreigners you have coming there, the less Congress people you have coming there. All of that helps Israel continue to steal land. And as I said about Ro Khanna's statement that this is unprecedented, it's only unprecedented because it's a congressperson. This is the lived reality on the ground every day for these Palestinians in the West Bank, especially in the more rural areas where settlers are more likely stealing the land. Like it's far easier to steal rural areas than it is the heavily, heavily occupied areas, but heavily populated. Sorry, but. So these quote unquote settlers, the land pillagers, they're often young because Israel knows that like 16-year-olds are less likely to serve any prison time. But on top of that, it doesn't matter whether they're young or not really, because there's no accountability. Who do you call if you've lived on a farm for 100 years and Israelis show up with guns, with automatic rifles, and start setting fire to stuff like your sheds, kill your sheep, whatever, stand in your face, flick cigarettes at you, however they want to make your life hell? Who are you going to call? And don't say Ghostbusters. Who are you going to fucking call? There's no authority outside of the IDF. So you can call the IDF, but now you've got more Israelis with bigger guns telling you to go fuck yourself. Like, there is no one to stop these land pillagers. And that's what Ro Khanna was witnessing. But the difference is member of Congress. Okay, I am going to keep moving rather quickly because I have so much I want to talk to you guys about. But still on the topic of Israel, I thought this was a great montage of this is someone put this montage together. I guess Declassified UK, they do great work. Of these are the labor figures. So these are the so-called more liberal officials in Britain talking about Israel during the genocide. And watch how squishy they are. So this is 2.5 years of genocide. Watch how squishy they are, how they try to avoid giving Israel any accountability for fucking genocide.
This is a really difficult, complex, serious, and deeply held issue.
Do you think Israel breached international law by cutting off power and water supplies?
Do you think cutting off food, water, and electricity is within international law?
Do you think Israel is abiding by international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
I'm not going to sit in your studio and grandstand and tell you that I'm going to make big pronouncements about what Israel is and isn't doing. As I said,
I love that. I love that response. I'm not going to sit here and make some kind of big pronouncements, which means I'm not going to answer your question. I'm not going to say anything about what Israel is doing. I will certainly say everything about what Hamas is doing, according to the propaganda. I will certainly talk endlessly about what Hamas or Palestinians have done, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about what Israel has done. Nay, nay.
I mean, it's very difficult at the moment because this is all happening so fast.
What would your red lines be? There's been accusations.
This is all happening so fast. It's funny how when they had to talk about what happened on October 7th, man, were they quick to talk about that. But when it was anything else, when it was what Israel's doing, it's all happening too fast for us to say anything. I mean, we can't even talk.
Of white phosphorus being used, of collective punishment, of bombing, of safe routes. What are your red lines?
Here has shown real leadership in setting forward our position.
I'm not going to do is adjudicate.
For those of you listening to the podcast, this is Keir Starmer, who was prime minister until a few days ago.
On each and every example that people may understandably want to put to me.
Do you support?
I think one of my favorite responses, and I'm not going to stand here and answer anything that's being said to me, and I'm not going to give you anything that says anything about the thing, because I've been asked a question.
The order to move them or not?
The order to move them? Well, clearly.
Just yes or no?
It's not a yes or no, Victoria. I'm hoping one day to be foreign secretary and a chief diplomat. So it's not a yes or no.
The Defence Force say civilian deaths in this conflict are inevitable in order to eliminate Hamas. Do you accept that?
I was an aid worker for almost 10 years.
It's really just a yes or
My second favorite, I'm going to go second favorite on this one is, let me tell you a story about my life. Do you think it's right to blow up aid worker? Well, let me tell you about the time I was 10 and I used to deliver milk door to door. What?
no?
I accept that when there is war, there is civilian camp casualties.
It's clear to me that it's wrong to bomb a refugee camp. But clearly, if there is a military objective, it can be legally justifiable.
Oh, really? To bomb a refugee camp can be legally justifiable, you sick fucks.
Starmer is not a protest leader. He understands why people are calling for a ceasefire, but he believes that for those two reasons, for now, that is not the right approach.
Some of my colleagues who think it's more important to make a gesture.
Still a who think it's more important when he says make a gesture, it's do anything. Some of my colleagues who think it's more important to do anything than to not do anything about a genocide.
A relatively small number of junior frontbench colleagues who've said this. They almost exclusively represent very heavily Muslim constituencies.
His position.
Oh, those who actually stand up against genocide represent Muslims. Well, that just means that you're, I don't know, racist because you won't stand up against genocide because it's not more your people.
Is the right one.
A siege is appropriate, cutting off power, cutting off water.
I think that Israel does have that right.
This is a.
So that last one about does have that right, for those of you listening to the podcast, was again Keir Starmer saying that Israel has a right to commit a siege, which is cutting off electricity, cutting off water, cutting off power, cutting off everything to innocent people, which again, war crime. It's called collective punishment. It's a war crime. All right, still on the topic of Israel, and this next story, honestly, horrifies me in multiple ways, and of course, not getting mainstream coverage. Yeah, this one, we all need to keep talking about this because this is pretty fucking scary. So this is from Gray Zone. Kit Clarenberg, I believe, always doing good work. So there is a man named Fergie Chambers, who, maybe some of you knew of him. I didn't know of him. He is one of the heirs to the Cox family, COX, and he is apparently an awesome dude because he has cut ties with his family and he has sold all of his stake in Cox Media, which for those of you from other countries, you might not know that Cox Media owns a large swath of American media. It's a major player in our media market. He's sold his stake in it, and apparently his family and he don't talk much or at all anymore. And he has taken the money he made from the sale, which is about $250 million, and he has been donating it to, it seems like, pretty awesome causes, such as Palestinians, such as those in Gaza struggling. So what has the Trump White House done? What has the Justice Department done? They are coming after him, and they have actually brought charges against him for donating to Palestinians, and he is now in prison in Spain. And Spain is preparing to extradite him to the United States for donating to victims of genocide. I'll read a little bit of this. From the Gray Zone has reviewed a sealed indictment for pro-Palestine donor Fergie Chambers, who was arrested in Spain on dubious money laundering charges concocted by the Trump Department of Justice. His partner accuses the U.S. government of political persecution. Fergie Chambers, a communist philanthropist and heir to the Cox family fortune, has been jailed in Ibiza, Spain, on the orders of the Justice Department. According to a sealed indictment seen by the Gray Zone, Chambers now awaits extradition to Washington on federal charges of international money laundering with the intent to provide material support to and resources to foreign terrorist organizations. If deported to the U.S., he faces up to 30 years in prison. On July 10th, 6 Spanish police vehicles surrounded Chambers' car while he drove through Ibiza with his family before detaining him. Since his arrest, he has been denied bail and denied contact with the outside world. Chambers' detention marks the first time an individual has faced extradition to the U.S. from Spain for supporting the Palestinian cause. This is also kind of shocking because Spain has been one of the countries, at least in Europe, that has actually been really good on the topic of Palestine, on the topic of genocide. And in fact, at the latest NATO summit, Trump announced that the U.S. would be cutting off all trade with Spain because of this, because Spain actually gives a shit about genocide and is standing up against the U.S. And other actions the U.S. under Trump has taken. But yeah, the fact that so Spain is ready to extradite him. The fact that he's been arrested without like contact with the outside world just seems pretty draconian for Spain. It appears that Chambers used his funds for seemingly legal purposes, including investing in local businesses and sponsoring the Club African football team, which in May became champion of the Tunisian Ligue Professionnelle. Chambers has bankrolled similar enterprises along with political and social causes since the early 2000s. And here is a quote from his partner. Quote, the Department of Justice is politically persecuting Fergie Chambers because he is using his wealth to support Palestine and help people facing genocide in Gaza. His crime is dedicating his life to building a better society rather than exploiting people, extract wealth, and profit from war. He should be home safe with our family and continuing his important humanitarian and social advocacy, not incarcerated in a foreign jail facing effective life imprisonment back in the U.S. Really is a horrific story. And I think we all, by the way, thanks Heart in the City for supporting the show. Super chats do help support this show. I think this is a story we should definitely watch. I think it's one that is could actually be influenced by a lot of, a campaign to get him free. As opposed to some other things, like I think this has more of a chance because they have so little against him. But anyway, I wanted to bring that story to your attention. I've not heard a lot of coverage of it. It really is terrifying, the idea of them locking someone up for 30 years for donating money to help the victims of genocide. Like, that is the point we're at now with our collapsing dog shit empire. It's just unbelievable. Okay, let's keep moving because I have so many topics to cover. But I mean, I hope to have updates on that. But obviously, I'm just getting information from Gray Zone, so it'll depend on whether they find some updates, etc. Okay, so I know this is a bit of a shift, but it seemed like two good videos to bring you at the same time, which is these both have to do, these are both famous economists talking about the reality of the IMF and the World Bank. And this first one is economist Richard Werner, or maybe pronounced Werner, and he reveals how the IMF deliberately manufactures crises in order to basically extract resources from countries. And anyway, it's 1 minute long. Let's hear this on. This was him speaking on Tucker Carlson.
For example, in the so-called Asian crisis, 1998, which was very much engineered by the system, IMF and central banks. It's very much, I was sent on an official mission to Thailand in 1998 on this to analyze this and advise the Thai government from the Asian Development Bank's perspective. Based on my analysis, I concluded that it was a plot by the local central bank in Thailand against the country, together with the IMF. It was a situation to create, a boom-bust cycle, and then bankrupt Thailand and ask the IMF to come in. And then the IMF asked for Thai assets to be sold to foreigners. Thailand was doing well until then, and then it had to sell. Well, it was asked to sell its banks and its industry to foreigners very cheaply while the currency had been devalued, right?
So the reason this is kind of like blows people's minds is because some people who've bought into the propaganda think that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, what their mission is, if you believe what they tell people, their mission is to help third world countries, to help countries that are struggling, help countries that don't have enough money. They give them loans so that they can build up their industries or whatever. But the truth is, these entities only work in one way, which is the way of extraction. They are designed to extract resources, goods, money from other countries, supporting the West. And, I've covered it before. I don't remember the exact number, but I think someone did an analysis and found that over the past many hundreds of years, the West, kind of the northern hemisphere West, as we call it, has extracted over, I think it was 240, I know it was over 200, but $240 trillion from the global South, from Africa and Latin America and parts of Asia. Just trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth. That's not just money. That's like resources. That's humans. I mean, fucking slave trade. And it used to be done with just the tip of a gun. You just show up in the country. You say, get on the boat or we're going to kill your family. Like, that's how it used to be done. Now it's done in this more cordial and business-like atmosphere where we manufacture a boom bust cycle, collapsing the economy of Thailand, and then tell them the only way out is to sell their resources to us at a pretty penny, or whatever, at a pennies on the dollar. That's how it works now. And this guy's one of the most famous economists in the world, I'd say. And here's another hugely famous economist. This is Michael Hudson. He is often on Ben Norton's radio show. And here he is talking about the World Bank.
Makes African and third world debt different from the American debt. Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in U.S. dollars. Africa has to earn the U.S. dollars, and the only way it can earn the U.S. dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the third world should only grow export crops. In order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can do what America tried to do to China in the 60s. We can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. I think the most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
The most evil organizations in the world today. And it's also kind of interesting because, like, if you talk to liberals, those are two of the better organizations they probably think of. They go, oh, IMF and World Bank, those do good around the world, don't they? No, they are designed to look like they're helping countries while sucking off them. And yes, I meant that in all of the ways. They use economics. I'm trying to shrink down his terminology into for dum-dums like me. They use basically often complicated economics, currency controls, etc., to make it almost impossible for a country to get out of debt. And in order to just deal with their debt, to just not have their people starving in the streets, they have to buy from the U.S., or their debt, as he says, is in U.S. dollars. And if they and often if they go against what the U.S. wants from them, then step one for the U.S. This is kind of the thesis of Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Excellent book to learn a bit of how the world works. Step one is to economically hit them. To hit them so that their people are starving in the streets. And then the U.S. goes, see what's happening in Venezuela? People are starving. They're starving there. Yeah, because you have sanctioned them into oblivion. Same with Syria, right? Syria, before Assad finally was taken down, before that, it was the Syrian people. See, they're starving. They're hungry. Yeah, because of your fucking sanctions. In Iran, they're doing it now, right? Iran's economy is struggling mightily right now. Why? Because we are fucking trying to starve them to death. And we do this again and again and again if the country doesn't go along with what the fucking mafia tells them to do. And the mafia is the U.S. government at the top of that scheme. We are the godfather at the top of the mafia pyramid chart. And like, I probably should do some more deep dives on IMF and World Bank. I've done segments on them in the past, but they're really not talked about enough. They are like the tip of the spear for U.S. hegemony. So and then Europe goes along with that. U.S. and Europe, Western hegemony. Okay, I am again going to move to another topic because I have so many I want to talk about in this show. Michael Hudson's awesome though. Keep your eye out for his work. Okay, this is just, oh, and by the way, in a moment, oh God, I have so many things to tell you, but in a moment, I'm gonna bring you don't let me end this show with forgetting to cover this. I have Google alerts for my name, and every once in a while, one of these websites that does net worth of so-called celebrities. So it's like so-and-so's net worth has a article about me or whatever, a few paragraphs about me. Comedian Lee Camp's net worth. And I know I brought one to you like a year ago or something, and they are hilarious. They are so fucking funny. They are so written by AI, and they're so laughably false. Like beyond just like, I don't have anywhere near that kind of money, but it's like, you'll see, just hang in there and tell me if this sounds like the truth. It's too funny to not like cover it. Anyway, but before I get to that, I wanted to bring this because we get just barrages of information or false information, usually, about how terrible China is, right? All the awful China does, or if China does something positive, but at what cost? We get all of that. The Guardian, and I don't know if it was like an accident. I don't know if the editor was out that day and forgot to cancel this one. The Guardian printed something positive about China and Chinese people, like a short article. And it's pretty like amazing that it was actually in a mainstream outlet. But anyway, this was posted by Bernard Bertrand on X, and he says this must have slept past the editors. It depicts China positively. It's a very short article, which doesn't surprise me. I think honestly, you want to say that the editor was sick, but I think the real reason this slipped through was because it is a like 2-paragraph article, and the word China only shows up one time. So I think they were kind of hoping people would like ignore the fact that this was China. Anyways, titled "The Kindness of Strangers." I was hopelessly ill in China. Then a hotel staff offered to take my elderly father sightseeing. Like, also, whatever country you're in, whether it's the US or Britain or somewhere, can you picture hotel staff doing this in your country? That's what I want to know. Oh, and here's the third reason I think that that Guardian was willing to put this article up is because it starts with someone getting food poisoning in China, which I think they liked that aspect. Anyway, yeah, the article's like 1 minute long, or 2 minutes long, so I'll go ahead and read it. The food poisoning hit like a tsunami. Let's see. I remember being out at a dumpling restaurant and I just, kept vomiting. I'm not going to describe as vomiting because what's the point? I kept vomiting. I was traveling in Xi'an, China with my father, who was aged 88 or 89. I really should have been in the hospital, but I didn't feel like I could leave my dear old dad on his own. Instead, I retreated to my hotel room where I spent the night vomiting. It was awful. I dragged myself to reception the next morning to apologize for the mess and asked if someone could clean the room. An older woman who spoke no English came to my room and swiftly took charge, stripping the bed, putting on clean shirts, magicking away the... It's still getting disgusting, but magicking away the filth. Between cleaning the room, she would pat me on the shoulder and wordlessly reassure me. I tried to tip her when she was done, but she refused my money and kept coming back every couple of hours to check on me. The cleaner must have told reception about the state I was in because a younger lady from the front desk later knocked on my door to ask if she could help. Could she perhaps take my father out somewhere while I rested? Really trying to picture hotel staff in the United States doing this. I answered that we'd been planning to visit the Terracotta Army. She told me that her shift was about to end and she would happily take my father. What? I remember the last thing she did before they left was delicately straighten my father's collar. I knew that he was, in good hands. I'd given my father plenty of money to see them both through the day. But when she returned, he told me the receptionist hadn't let him pay for anything. She had taken him sightseeing on her day off and on her own meager wage. I tried several times later to pay her back, but she utterly refused any money. She cared for him as if it was her own grandfather. The respect shown to my father when I was sick and helpless was beyond amazing and is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. My father and I have been lucky enough to travel the world, but we both agreed we've never experienced kindness like we did in China. This is unbelievable to see in the mainstream media. I know Guardian is British, but British mainstream media, US mainstream media, if someone were to add up the number of times there's been a essentially purely positive, except it talks about food poisoning, but a purely positive article about China and the kindness of Chinese people, it's got to be one every 15 years or something. This has got to be the only one in the past 15 years. But I think this also speaks to there is a culture of kindness to elders that I've seen when I've gone to China. And I don't think that really exists in the US. I mean, I'm not saying we treat every old person like shit in the US, but a lot of old people are put in homes and kind of forgotten about, elder homes and or whatever the new woke term is for, I don't know, senior homes. That sounds like you put a bunch of kids who were in their last year of high school in a facility, a care facility or something. We took all the seniors at Hampton High and put them in a care facility. Anyway, a senior facility of happiness or whatever the new term is. Anyway, it's just unbelievable kindness. And yes, I don't believe there's any kind of tipping culture over in China. I've only been there, I guess, twice, and one of the times was for 4 days. One was for 3 weeks, but I didn't see any tipping or hear of any. So I don't think there's a tipping culture there. And that would make sense because the tipping culture is largely just the US. I mean, there's small amounts of tipping in other countries, but the US is where it's a major thing. And that's because it's based on slavery. I don't know if you knew that. It has to do with the fact that when slavery ended, a lot of black people, recently freed slaves, were only given jobs because the whatever employer, the store or whatever restaurant would say, I'm not going to pay you. But if you walk around and clean up trash, if the customers tip you, you get to keep it. And so basically these people were working for only tips because no one would hire them as regular employees. And so tipping culture became more and more of a thing because of that. So if you're wondering why, we had such a major slavery-based economy, that's where a lot of our tipping culture comes from. So I think in China, if I have this right, it's kind of viewed as disrespectful to offer money for something that was considered just a kind gesture. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. Oh, well, let me give you money for that. No, because that changes. All of a sudden, it becomes a transaction for money as opposed to I did this because I care about an elder person who suddenly was stuck in China with a son who's on death's door. Like, I don't know. Anyway, beautiful little story there. And one of the rare, oh, so rare moments that U.S. media, sorry, not U.S., Western media is willing to cover the kindness of Chinese people. So thought that needed to be highlighted. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and jump to, I'm going to get to at least one more story after this, but I think we'll see. But I'm going to jump to this just for fun, just for funsies. I'm going to jump to, like I said, the Google alert lets me know if my name is in some article or something. Lets me know when someone's written an attack piece about me. And about once a year, I get a new article claiming to tell everyone what Lee Camp's net worth is. And this one tops the others, and the others were insane. This one wins. By the way, tell me at what point you realize this is written by AI. And not just written by AI, but at no point did a human even begin to analyze whether this was factual or near factual, even factual adjacent. Title: Lee Camp net worth. How much is the comedian worth? Lee Camp net worth. His base salary. First of all, I don't have a base salary because I no longer work at a TV station. So your first three words are false. I have no base salary. His base salary and bonus. I've never gotten a bonus in my fucking life. No one has given me a bonus. There was, even when I was at had Redacted Tonight, the TV show, at no point did someone say, hey, if you get a certain number of views, you get a bonus, or Happy Christmas, here's a bonus. Didn't exist. So your first 6 words are all false. That might be a record. His base salary and bonus are designed to cover living expenses, while the majority of his total compensation comes in the form of long-term equity awards. Oh, yeah? What equity do that? What stake of a company would I have? My fucking YouTube that's suppressed into oblivion? Is that the thing I have equity in? It's the words don't even make sense. Okay. He led a group. What, like a business group? I have a business group. He led a group that purchased a 10% stake in T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Yeah, that's right. I led a fucking group. We took a 10% stake in the T-Mobile Arena. You know me, guys. And subsequently became a minority owner of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC. Oh man, they nailed me. They got me. And you know what else is they made this so close to my real life that like everyone's gonna believe it. The Ultimate Fighting Champions. That's right. I'm a minority owner of the UFC. You know how else you guys can know this is true is because I talk about the UFC just so much. Like, God, you guys are so sick of it, right? Every time I bring up politics, I'm like, but also UFC. I think the only time I've literally ever spoken about UFC on this show is Trump's. I did a Substack article on Trump's. No, I didn't actually. The whole article wasn't on the thing. Just the first paragraph was about Trump's idiot UFC. It was the article about how much we're like the collapse of Rome. And so I compared Trump's UFC fight to the gladiators. Anyway, notably, his purchase of the famed Jane Hotel in Manhattan, I don't even know what that is, and his significant investment in sprawling estate in Wyoming. Oh, right, of course, Wyoming. Actually, hilariously, they nailed the only state that I think I've never been to, and it's the only state, well, maybe one of two. One of the only states in the continental United States I haven't performed stand-up comedy. So they literally found the only state that I've like never done any kind of business transaction, never been paid to perform in my life. Wyoming is on my list. I feel like there's one other. It's possible I've never performed in Alabama, but I've definitely driven through Alabama. I'm not even sure I've driven through Wyoming. A state in Wyoming demonstrate a strategic mind when it comes to asset acquisition, whether viewed as a genius or a provocateur. There is no denying that Dana White is the man who defined an era of fighting. So now I think they just took Dana White's, like the paragraph they wrote about Dana White, who's the head of the UFC, and just pasted that in as my net worth. It's possible this is all about Dana White. I don't know. His legacy, for better or worse, is inextricably linked to the multi-billion-dollar industry he so carefully and violently built. Okay, so now we're just fully on to UFC. We've now abandoned how much is Lee Camp worth. Then it goes on to say he reportedly earned $100 million. I assume they're talking about Dana White's UFC money. But then it goes, and then suddenly it shifts back to me because it goes, a staggering sum for a comedy special. That's right, folks. My little half hour that I taped in New York City in front of 50 people at the Cobra Club. 100 million. A cool 100 mil for that comedy special. By the way, do you want to know the net amount I've made from all of my comedy specials? So if you take the 2 half hours I just put out, if you become a member of Substack, I give you those 2 half hours. If you take my biggest production comedy special was in 2018 in Los Angeles. We did it in a big theater, seats 400. We did 2 nights. Abby Martin opened the show. It was great. Now, anyway, that was my biggest production. I actually had a film crew there, like all kinds of editing and shit. Took months to actually release it. All that shit. If you take those and that, and I had 3 comedy specials before, you take all that, you want to know how much I've made from all that? I'll estimate negative, I'll say $2,000. Because the main special that I put out, I probably lost $8,000 trying to put out a comedy special. Probably more, but we'll say $8,000. And because I was so suppressed that it did, the fact that I created this great comedy special, I'm not even talking about just my performance. I mean, just the look of it. It didn't matter, because when you're that suppressed, it doesn't matter how good something looks or how good you do or whatever. Thank you, Arlene, for supporting the show with a super chat. That's really cool. Anyway, but yeah, didn't know that. $100 million. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm doing that well. It also proves my draw, they say, could fill digital vaults as effectively as movie theaters. Well, I like that. I wish it were true. Oh, and now we've switched over to someone who makes songs, because it says each song release is calculated marketing effort that keeps her name. Now my gender has changed. Her name at the forefront of youth culture. Anyway, you get the point of how garbage these things are. Hopefully, if idiots actually read this, hopefully they go, I think this might be AI. I think this might be AI, and I think it might not be true. Honestly. Okay. We're going to make these next 2 the last 2 stories, but before I do that, I want to tell you I have another new, besides my one on Lindsey Graham, which I covered, I have another new Substack article on a solution, a major solution to help stop this country, this world from just driving off the cliff into oblivion. And that solution is a mandatory sociopath test at the front door of any position of power. CEOs, fucking police chiefs, Congress, White House, all of it. Just a straight up sociopath test. And I give a bunch of details. I talk about the fact that I give numbers between 1 and 4.5% of adults are sociopathic. That's the estimate. It's 3 to 5 times more likely if you're a man. I also go into detail about sociopath tests and whether this is feasible to give all these people sociopath tests and how it would work, etc., what it means to be a sociopath. Anyway, check out that column, reallycamp.substack.com, free to read over there. but I obviously hope you sign up for the cost of a whopping beer a month. A beer a month will keep this show going, and I hope you'll sign up at reallycamp.substack.com. But actually, maybe I might cover that column in more detail on a future show. But for right now, I have another story I want to get to. The Democrats have quietly embraced a new tactic with climate crisis, with climate change, and that tactic is to shut the fuck up about it. The Democrats have learned that talking about the fact that we are literally just plowing off an environmental cliff, just making this world uninhabitable for both us and everything we need to survive, they've decided that's not good for votes. So there is a new article at Inside Climate News. By the way, thank you, Eleanor Goldfield, for including this in her news that didn't make the news, because that's where I found this. Inside Climate News has posted, elected Democrats have embraced climate hushing. To some political pundits and Democratic strategists, one takeaway from the 2024 election was clear: don't talk about climate change. An Inside Climate News analysis of press releases issued by members of the House and Senate shows that elected Democrats seem to have embraced the message of climate hushing, with mentions of climate change plummeting since 2025, which is funny because, you know, the temperature chart is going the other way. Basically, it's let's see, this one is mentions of climate change, both on mainstream media and by the Democrats, or climate crisis or climate issues. This one over here is the temperature of the world and the ocean and all of those things. It absolutely, we are fucking animals. Well, the people leading us are fucking animals. Like, let's stop talking about the thing we have to change in order to survive longer than a few decades. Let's just stop mentioning it. It also means that they'll, besides the fact that they think they're more likely to get elected if they don't mention it, they also want oil donations. So that's great too. It's clear the high cost of gasoline and electricity is a top concern for voters, but the idea that mentioning climate change poses a risk for Democratic candidates in the upcoming midterm elections is generating pushback from many academics who study public opinion on energy and climate, and from some leading Democrats who argue that failing to link the energy affordability message to a wider picture of clean energy and climate change is a mistake. So yeah, there's a few Democrats who will actually talk about climate crisis regularly and easily. Not many. There aren't many. And there's even less by the day. And now actual analysis of actual mentions by the Democrats show that. So think about what you have here. You have the two parties, the two cheeks of the same backside, right? Democrats and Republicans. On one side, you've got the Republicans saying climate crisis, climate change, all of it is not real or doesn't matter. Or awesome, we'll melt the ice caps and then we'll drill for oil. Yay! As if melting the ice caps couldn't stop some of the ocean currents that are pivotal in our very existence. But yay. So you have them who say it's not real or whatever. They're ignoring 99.9% of all peer-reviewed scientific literature. Doesn't matter. They're anti-science, 100%. Then you have Democrats who claim to be somewhat pro-science. And they're just like, let's not talk about it anymore. These are the two parties that you're allowed to vote for. These are the two parties. One says it's not happening. One says never speak about it. Awesome. This is like, of the existential risks to humankind, there are really three: nuclear weapons, AI, and climate crisis. Those are the three biggies. And one of them, like all of them, were sprinting off a cliff towards just, let's pull out of all the nuclear treaties, bomb, now we're talking about tactical nukes. Let's just see how countries deal with infinite nuclear weapons around the world. The other one, AI, just sprinting off a cliff there. Let's just ignore the fact that there are crazy scenarios that could destroy human life as we know it, and we're just going to ignore them and keep racing towards better and better, smarter and smarter AI till it's a millions of times smarter than any human. Sure, why not? And then you have climate crisis, which we know is happening, 99.9% of all peer-reviewed scientific literature. But we're just going to either ignore it or pretend we're doing something that we're not really doing. Like even when the Democrats were in office, Biden, Obama, they did essentially nothing. Whatever they did was basically just to have a little banner to wave going, look, I'm doing something. Didn't do it. But when asked about climate crisis in Biden's campaign, one of the main things he talked about was, I'm going to put in 500,000 new chargers across the country so that we can use more charging cars, more EVs. That's what I'm going to do. A, that's not enough. Won't put a dent in what we need to be doing. B, he didn't even do that. I don't know what the number was, but he did not put in 500,000 chargers. Okay, but I am going to wrap this episode up with a little bit of good news on the climate front, at least a possible solution. As many of you know, the biggest reason for climate change, climate crisis, is fossil fuel usage. We have to get off fossil fuels. There are a multitude of other energy sources. The problem is the U.S. currency is based on the petrodollar, so we need fossil fuels to keep running. Also, we have control of a lot of fossil fuels, so we want to keep having control of the world. So controlling fossil fuels only matters if everyone's using fossil fuels. So we need the world to keep using fossil fuels. And in fact, human beings need to get off fossil fuels. So there's a lot of different energy sources. Some of them are becoming very prevalent, solar, wind, electricity based on solar and wind, and others. There's maybe some geothermal. There's obviously some nuclear power still being used. But there are other experimental and energy sources that we're getting at. And here is a new-ish one, at least the amount that is available in the world. This is from futurasciences.com, although this story was covered in other outlets as well. Scientists have uncovered a vast energy source underground. And this breakthrough could change everything. For a long time, it was believed hydrogen does not naturally exist on Earth. However, traces of natural hydrogen started appearing here and there, some even detected in France as early as the beginning of the 20th century. Starting in the 1970s, researchers began to identify what's now called white hydrogen, from the ocean floor all the way to the continental crust. But only very recently has this discovery sparked real global interest. What's changed? As the world scrambles for ways to decarbonize economies, natural hydrogen is looking less like a sci-fi fantasy and more like a gift from the deep earth. Producing hydrogen. Now, by the way, I haven't done enough research to find out whether, getting at this hydrogen is hugely, horrifically damaging to the world or things like that. So there could be caveats that I'm not privy to at the moment. But producing hydrogen from fossil fuels, the so-called gray hydrogen used for things like fertilizer, comes with a hefty carbon cost. Nearly 22 pounds of carbon dioxide for every 2.2 pounds of hydrogen produced. So the dirty hydrogen pumps more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which makes it useless as a green energy. It's not a green energy. The availability of low carbon hydrogen could help us break our oil habit in the transport sector and possibly for power generation too. In Australia, new exploration drilling has launched. In the US, researchers have pinpointed areas that could be hiding sizable reserves. The momentum is building in France as well. By the end of 2023, the first exploration license was granted. Recently, scientists announced the discovery of a natural hydrogen reservoir containing an estimated 46 million metric tons in Moselle, France. For context, global hydrogen consumption was about 90 million metric tons in 2022. Safe to say the white hydrogen rush is underway. So yeah, I would want to know more, like, ongoing, as to how harmful it is to access this stuff, but this form of hydrogen. But I thought it was an important solution to one of my many solutions I'm bringing to you, or possible solutions. And these are solutions for a lot of the problems that humanity is facing. I often say the solutions are out there, most of them. We're just not using them. We're choosing not to use them. We're choosing not to evolve past capitalism, etc. But here's another one to add to our solution list. All right, I'm going to wrap up there. Gave you a bonus 15 minutes. How about that? Did I earn my 33 cents? I hope I earned my 33 cents. If I did, please join up at reallycamp.substack.com or patreon.com/leecamp. Or if you want to be part of my locals community, that's at leecamp.net, where you can post your own stuff. You can see all of my work. You can chat with people. That's leecamp.net. So check out that as well. But I hope you'll check out one of these. If when you sign up, you don't receive, in a couple of, like 2 days after you sign up, you don't receive your free ebook, the 2 stand-up comedy specials. If you don't receive that, an email with that, A, check your spam filter. B, email me, and I will make sure you get it. LeeCampMail@gmail.com. LeeCampMail at gmail.com. Thank you. Jacob says I earned the beer. Yes. All right. I will see you Wednesday. It's likely going to be government secrets. That's the hope, at least. Government secrets always seems to get canceled, but hopefully Wednesday for government secrets. Thanks again, and keep fighting.